It is. It's kind of the highest of highs, sometimes the lowest of lows, but for the most part, it's definitely on the high mark of people's careers and things. So it's very fun to get to chat with them and get their initial reactions when they're coming out of the arena, and something that I really cherish getting to do.
Bring them in on the rail, let it jog, please. On the rail, let it jog.
Well, we are very excited to have Connie Lechleitner on today, who is the current editor of the NSBA magazine, The Way to Go. Please feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and kind of your background in horses and that type of thing.
Sure. Well, I am from a small town in Northeast Ohio called New Philadelphia, Ohio. And I left there. I went to the Columbus area for a while, went to college and worked in that area for quite a while, and have moved back home to help my dad out, but have shared his love for horses. That's kind of how I got started with the horses at a couple of years old, and have pretty much been around them pretty much all my life. Currently, I'm trying to raise some buckskin IBHA and ABRA horses, but I have a buckskin bred. He's a little bay colt that hopefully I'll get to show some yearling lunge line and in-hand trail and halter with next year. But it's been a up and down raising your own and trying to make that work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You do what you can. But I started out my journey with the Ohio Quarter Horse Association right after college. And so my background is I worked for them for almost a little over 20 years. And so my first introduction to the association work was through them. I did their monthly magazine there and also the press room at the Quarter Horse Congress. And that's how I met Diane Eppers. So that is kind of the start of my relationship with the NSBA folks. And then I had been working with Diane when she was a trainer. She was one of my advertisers with the Congress program. So we knew each other that way. And then a little bit later in life, she said, I think I'm going to have a job for you later. And so it's been, I think, about 7 or 8 years now that I've been doing the magazine. Formerly, they had farmed it out to the Borton family. And so they had done the magazine for a number of years, and they decided to bring the magazine basically in-house. So I get to work from home, but I go to the office periodically and we meet up at shows with the rest of the staff. So, but it's probably been, I'm going to guess, about 8 years now that I've been doing the magazine as editor. But it came from a long line of horse-related ventures. I've been freelance writing for a long time too. So doing the horse part of it has kind of been in my blood for a long, long time.
Have you always been involved in just the quote, stock horse industry pretty much, when you were doing freelance writing, or what did you do when you were a freelance writer?
Sure. Yes, I pretty much always did the stock horse industry. I worked a little bit for the Equine Chronicle. I've done some stuff for AQHA in the past, and I've also done some agricultural work. My actual degree is from the Ohio State University in agricultural communications and animal science. So I do some agricultural work from time to time too on a freelance basis. So that's also part of it. But I think the first thing that I ever edited, I was probably about 15 years old and did a 4-H newsletter for my saddle horse group. So it seems like the whole horse newsletter, horse magazine publication business has kind of been around almost all my life. So it's something I've been close to a long time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been in your blood probably for much of your adult life, if not even before. So that's really cool. So what does your job actually entail? I know you're the editor and obviously you do a lot of writing, but maybe what's stuff that people don't really know that you do on a daily basis for, the magazine?
Well, it's a combination of a lot of phone calls because I am, when I'm not at a show, helping promote the show and do coverage of who's winning classes on the days that the show is on. It's a lot of phone calls to people doing stories. We usually have a planning session at the end of the year to plan the next year's, what we call the editorial calendar, which will be the kind of the theme of each issue and what those stories will involve. Usually there are some feature stories involved. There are usually some association related news items that we do depending on deadlines and what's happening. And then we usually have some items for our foundation that we do. And then also featuring either an open competitor or a non-pro, a youth, or someone else of interest in the industry. And then we also work quite a bit with our alliance members who are all of the kind of the associations under our umbrella that are breed specific. And we work with them to do some highlights for them. Some show coverage is provided to us. I get to attend some horse shows, but not all. And so some of that coverage, I reach out and talk with show managers or presidents or whomever that might be. So a little bit of everything, but the only part I don't do is the advertising.
Okay, so somebody else handles the advertising part of it. And then
Yes,
also,
that would be Nicole Barnes.
do you do the magazine layout or?
That actually we work in cooperation with our printer on. I don't have to do too much layout work, but I'll provide, like, we'll sit down and go through photos, what graphics are we going to use, and so we kind of work as a team on that. But we're lucky to have a printer who does have that capability, so we actually work closely with them on the layout, and so the writing takes up a lot of time, a lot of phone calls, and a lot of follow up.
For sure. So how often does your job require you to travel?
For a while, kind of pre-COVID, it was about once a month that I traveled, but COVID kind of changed things a little bit. Number one, when the shows came back, they seemed like this summer they'd become all on top of each other. So it's kind of forced us to kind of pick and choose a little bit. Travel costs have also gone up. So that's kind of part of the budget issue is a little bit of it as well. Things that are close enough that I can drive to. For example, I live in Northeast Ohio. I can drive to Berrien Springs pretty easily. I can drive to Wilmington to cover things at the World Equestrian Center there pretty easily. Some of those types of shows are pretty easy to cover. And then it kind of comes down to sometimes it is a show that is maybe all or mostly futurity classes where our NSBA classes are pretty prominent. Some shows are a lot more dual approved classes that they're more breed specific. They don't have as much futurity added money. So those kind of tend to go further down the priority list just because of what our association is about and kind of more into the added money events and futurity classes. So that kind of dictates it. It kind of becomes a pecking order, but we do what we can to try to get as many places as we can. And part of that too is even if I can't attend, a lot of times I'll be promoting things to Facebook or those kinds of things where I can kind of hook onto what other people are doing and forward on those items. We've kind of been doing that a little bit here with the Appaloosa world and the Quarter Horse Youth world over the last several weeks. So that's kind of an example of some of the other coverage that we try to keep on top of and work with our other alliance members to do that too.
Yeah, my next question was going to be kind of like, how do you determine which events you're going to attend in person versus which events are you going to have content submitted to you? So it sounds like you specifically prioritize the more futurity NSBA based shows, that have those
Right.
events, and then more of the dual proof stuff you can have second. I don't want to say secondhand people, but people can send that information to you since there's only one of you.
Yeah, exactly. And we have every once in a while, we'll send a photographer to a couple of other shows that might be on top of each other. We've also got a really great relationship with most of the horse show photographers. And so we're able to get coverage without actually being at the show in that manner too, and being able to get win photos or candids and things like that. So you don't have to be every place at once, which is nice to have all those friends in the industry to kind of help us out.
Since we're talking about the horse shows and stuff, do you have like a specific horse show that you always would like to attend to get coverage? Or like, do you always search out that specific show yearly that you just adore? Or do you have a favorite?
Well, it's really tough for me. And I think the NSBA World Show, just because of it I love the NSBA World Show because of it being multi-breed and truly multi-breed. It's kind of like the vision of the founders has finally kind of come to be. When you go there and you see Appaloosas and Palominos and Buckskins and Paints and quarter horses that are bays and blacks and sorrels and see them all together, it's just fun to be able to see everyone under one roof showing and competing truly against each other in these all breed classes. So that's probably my favorite show. I really love getting to go to the World Equestrian Center in Ocala. That's just kind of Disney World for horse people, as we all say.
Mhm.
And so that showgrounds is just kind of special and something new and very different for a lot of us to be able to attend. So those two are probably my favorites. Berrien Springs is also really beautiful to show outside there. When the weather's good, it's a wonderful place to be. But I kind of love them all. I love getting to travel, honestly. I enjoy going to the different locations. So Arizona, the Sun Circuit, being in Fort Worth for some of the world shows there. I mean, they all have special parts to them. So it's fun. It's a fun position to get to travel to a lot of those different places.
Back to your role as being the editor of the magazine, what would you say your favorite part of that is, or your most fulfilling aspect of getting to be the editor currently?
I would say the most fulfilling thing about doing the editor position and being able to tell people's stories is really the best part. It's funny, everybody will come up and say, "Oh, I don't really have a story to tell." But when you start talking to them, somebody always has a story to tell about what they've done or where they've been. And so just being able to go through that process of figuring out what the story is, what makes this person tick, and kind of, what is it about the horse show world that attracts them. That's one of the most fulfilling things, is finding out, where did this love of the horse come from for you, and what is it about this business that makes you want to be here or to be competing or work with the horse that you're working with. There's just something that's behind it, and it's always fun to try to figure out what that is.
Or would you say you think you are more surprised by people's stories when you talk to them one-on-one? Or is it pretty much what you expected and maybe like 10% of the time you're very surprised? Or do you find yourself routinely surprised on, the backstory on somebody or their horse?
Well, some of them are very surprising. And there are some unusual stories that you'll find different places. I think one of the most memorable stories I ever did was actually when I worked for Ohio Quarter Horse. And that was, we had the, what they used to call the regional championship show. And that was being held in Columbus. And I had someone come through, and she had this beautiful jacket that she had put together. And the jacket ended up being her husband, who was killed in Iraq, and it was his one of his jackets in the military that she repurposed and put his medals and things on, and she made it a show jacket and kind of to honor him. So that was probably one of the most memorable stories that I've ever done, but one of the most fulfilling too. And just, different fun little things that happen at horse shows, and people will come by and tell you about it. And so there's always some fun story out there that someone will come by and tell me, and it's always fun to pursue those, just kind of the different ones, the ones that are kind of out of the ordinary, or maybe someone you haven't talked to before. I love getting to interview new people that are kind of new to the business, or who have just become kind of onto the scene and really starting to progress and do well and win some things. It's fun to interview those people.
For sure. There's a lot of unique stories out there in everybody's life, but particularly in the horse world. So those are the really great parts about being the editor. What's one of your, I don't want to say worst parts, but maybe one of your least favorite parts of being the editor?
Well, I hate to get it wrong. And, you're human. You're eventually going to make a mistake. And that's the worst part for me is I absolutely hate getting something wrong and writing something down wrong or hearing it wrong, or maybe it's said to me wrong, but having something that's incorrect. That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we could all relate to that feeling. Nobody wants to be wrong or particularly like misquote somebody or, tell the wrong story. But what would you say has been the thing that has surprised you the most, aside from obviously people have very unique stories and whatnot, but as in your job and your line of work and traveling all the amount, what is there been anything that stood out to you that's been not what you expected or surprised you in any way?
Well, I'm trying to think if there's been anything really surprising. I think the thing that's the most interesting thing is that the industry is always changing. It is, you see subtle changes from year to year of, what the judges may be looking for, what the bloodlines that are kind of the hot thing this year. And some of those things are always kind of changing. It may not seem like it, it's subtle, but that's probably the most surprising is that it's not always what you think it's going to be. Every time you go to a show and you think, oh, so-and-so's going to win. Nope, there's a new player and somebody else is coming in hot and they're doing really well. And it was a different one than what you thought it might be. So that's probably the most surprising is that things do change. New bloodlines come in, new people that reach the top of the game. And it's also really surprising to see what people do once they reach success too. Some people do kind of rest on their laurels a little bit. Other people will kind of keep going and be continuous students and kind of learn and continue to grow and do different things. And it's always fun to me to watch what people do once they have had a little bit of success and see where they go and what they do next.
On that last question with Jenna, do you find it at all like a little surprising? Like, do you think that the horse world is like small? Do you think like, so-and-so knows so-and-so? Do you ever feel like it's a small world being an editor of such a prestigious magazine?
It is a small world, and it's really kind of funny. A couple of years ago, I did this little article, and it was kind of like the Kevin Bacon effect. And we took people's kind of their family trees, but based it on their mentors. And it is surprising how many people will go back to the same family tree, so to speak, with where they started. So yes, in that sense, I would say yes, it is a small world. Even going to when I started at NSBA, I had come from the quarter horse world, so I didn't know the paint world, the Appaloosa world, and some of the other breeds. And it is interesting to hit those different parts of the industry and realize, oh wow, there's a lot of crossover here. There are some people who are doing multiple breed shows. There are people cross training and people who are catch riding for other people that you wouldn't expect. So there's a lot of cross pollination happening, I would say. So it is kind of a small world. And I think it's getting smaller too. It's like you see a lot more people showing different breeds and things now too. And I think part of that may have been a catalyst from NSBA World Show, because I think people are interacting there maybe and going back then to these other national breed shows and world shows. And maybe that's helped with the cross pollination. But it is kind of interesting to kind of go to the different shows and see who all is there and who all that you didn't expect to be there are also over there showing it in a different breed too.
Yeah, I always think it's funny, like you'll just be talking to somebody that maybe you don't know quite well, but then, they'll mention a name and you're like, oh, I happen to know, so-and-so. So I always think it's interesting when people know other people. So cool.
For sure. Well, it's kind of funny to me. One of the first big shows that I ever went to out west was the Sun Circuit. And you have to understand that I live less than 10 minutes from Carolyn Berry, who owns Berry Fit. And when I walked onto the grounds up at the Westworld, And I walked over to one of the arenas. One of the first people that I saw the first time on the grounds was Carolyn Berry, who I had to go across the country to see somebody who lives 10 minutes away from me. So it is truly a small world, most definitely.
Yeah, it's almost like that whole 6 degrees of separation, which exists in worldwide spectrum or whatever, but in the horse world, it's even narrowed down more. So it's almost like 3 degrees of separation. And then when you get to like the stock horse industry, in particular, it's like, it doesn't take very long to find somebody that knows somebody that and it does seem like it's a very small world. And I don't know if it's getting smaller or not, but it seems that way.
I think social media definitely helped with that too.
Yes, I think too.
Yeah, social media has definitely changed the horse world in a lot of ways for the better, of course. But it's right. I feel like it's the way we all network. It's a lot of the way how horses are bought and sold anymore. That's just kind of where we exist in the space. Alrighty, what would you say has been your either favorite moment as editor of The Way to Go or your favorite interview?
Gosh. They gave a special award to the staff a few years ago. They were given a President's Award, and it was named in honor of Leo Barbera, who was one of the founders of NSBA. And Leo was actually from Ohio, so I knew Leo and knew of him growing up. In fact, his horses were among the early High Point champions from Ohio that were AQHA champions, and so it was kind of really, to me, a special honor to name that award, that word that was named after him, to have that given to the staff that first inaugural year that they named it after him. It's just kind of special to me to have won that as part of the NSBA staff. And then I'm not sure the interviews, there's been so many, a couple of which were really sad. Like I've interviewed people right after horses passed and cried with them just as they were grieving. So was I. Oh, let's see. There's just so many different ones. It's really hard for me to come down to one that's kind of the most memorable. It's an interesting position to be in, and it's just so fun getting to meet so many different people in the business and learn more about them and the horses that bring them to us.
I think it's particularly fun that you get to interview people as they exit the arena gate after they just won. So obviously you're getting like the people on their highest of highs, which is a really cool. I mean, I feel like energizing to anybody as a job. And then of course there's the flip side of that. If you're interviewing somebody that maybe just lost a horse or whatever, but how cool it would be to get to talk to people in their like moment of jubilation.
Sure. It is. It's kind of the highest of highs, sometimes the lowest of lows, but for the most part, it's definitely on the high mark of people's careers and things. So it's very fun to get to chat with them and get their initial reactions when they're coming out of the arena, and something that I really cherish getting to do. And a lot of times, first time champions and getting their first reactions and things. So even more fun when I know the trainers and that they'll come up and say, I'm really glad I get to talk to you. So that's kind of fun too. So some of them, know that they're going to get to talk to me, which is kind of fun.
Right. So in your time, since you've been with the magazine NSBA, how would you say you feel the horse industry has shifted, or the stock breed industry has shifted largely in that amount of time? What's been the major changes?
Well, I hate to say that we've lost some people, but it seems like it's come back a little bit now. So we kind of have an ebb and flow. And one of my wise old friends years ago said that there's like a 3 or 4 year cycle to the horse industry for new people that come in. You have the newbie year, you have a second year where you feel like you're not big enough and you need to get more stuff. You need to get a bigger horse, more equipment, and so forth. And then that third year, you kind of feel like you maybe know more than you know, and kind of you either make or break yourself that third year. It's kind of, you figure out that you need to learn more and you stick with it, or that might be your make or break year and you decide, no, this isn't for me. But we've gone through a period of time. I think before COVID, it was kind of getting a little quiet, and then COVID happened, and then everybody was kind of thinking, I think I want to do this, but I'm not able to do this. And then when we were able to come back and really start showing again, it seemed like everybody wanted to jump back in, and we've got a good, healthy growth again in the industry. So that part of it has been really gratifying to watch progress. And I also think that we're seeing some growth in the all around and in the ranch area that luckily NSBA was able to come in and sanction those classes and help with that. And I think that the vision that they saw in sanctioning the all-around classes for year-end awards and adding those futurity classes has kind of helped the industry too, at our part of the industry anyway, because it is kind of fit with their vision of the longevity of the pleasure horse and the hunter under saddle horse, because we've given these horses more places to earn money, more places to earn year-end awards, and to progress further in their futurity careers, let alone their all-around and their breed careers. So seeing the growth in those areas and those classes has been very gratifying to me to watch happen too. And then lastly, to me, that ranch horse area is just tremendous, how it has just blossomed and grown, and all of the different parts of that. There's different classes to it now. And I have watched that really blossom and grow. The first year that I actually watched the classes at the NSBA World Show, it was kind of new to me. And honestly, it's now become the most fun weekend of the show, because it's just fun to watch people do something totally different than the norm and be able to watch them all kind of compete, but yet they're friends and they cheer each other on and they help each other out. And we're seeing more of that come back to the stock industry as a whole, but you really see it in that whole ranch riding and ranch horse division of the show. So it's fun to watch, and it's fun to watch it progress.
So, the entirety of, let's just say, the Western Pleasure class itself, we've had a lot of positive changes over the years. Do you feel like the ranch horse will maybe go through like the same phase, like they'll switch up a little bit of the class, or how do you foresee the ranch classes progressing with the NSBA? I guess I should ask.
Well, I know that they're adding more approval of some of the other events coming down the pike. I'm not involved in those discussions very much as far as what their sanctioning rules are going to be, or what different classes within that they may be starting to approve. But they've certainly developed more distinctive rules for the different classes that are being offered within the ranch division. And I foresee that really growing tremendously. It's obviously baby steps that we have to take to go through the hoops of approvals for our association, but it does appear to be developing a much more distinct set of rules and set of classes within it that I think are going to be strong and just continue to grow. And I do think that NSBA will continue to sanction and grow with that as it develops further. It seems like it is kind of where pleasure horses used to be, in the beginning when we kind of started. It had less development of rules. It was a much more, a wilder west thing of what we used to judge than what we judge today. And I think that is becoming more defined as we go along. And I think that the whole ranch division, they're probably going to end up with scores like we do for horsemanship and showmanship and trail and all of those things. Each part of it's probably going to end up being judged very similarly down the road. I know parts of it are now, but not all parts of it are. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch it develop. And as more people do it, they're going to be wanting to see those scores and see, why was I placed here and not here? And those demands will be on that side of the industry as well. So I do think that all of that will be coming further and being defined further.
Interesting. Yeah. It's definitely something new that a lot of people seem to have taken over the last, 2 or 3 years. I know working my open shows and stuff, everyone loves to do those ranch classes, and it's definitely grown quite a bit. I would be curious to see if we get it more specialized, like the Western Pleasure horses and the Hunt Seat horses and stuff like that. I feel like that might be where it's headed with how popular it's growing so quickly.
Yes, I think so too. And I do think, you're seeing some trainers who are starting to specialize in the ranch horse classes too. There's a couple of them out there that used to do other disciplines, a couple of reiners and some other folks, and even some reiners who do quite a few ranch riding horses within their barns now. So you are seeing a little bit of that specialization start to happen now. And a lot of people who I kind of think feel that they have a chance at it. Even I show buckskin a little bit. Even our ranch horse classes at our World Show, which was held late July here, those classes compared to 2-3 years ago, I think they've doubled or tripled in size.
Oh, wow.
Just even within those, a little bit smaller level, but those entries are just going through the roof. So it's become a very popular division of the industry.
So we're recording this before the NSBA World, but by the time the episode drops, it will probably be after NSBA World. So It's kind of the hot topic, though, of the current time frame, no matter what. So talk about what the NSBA World is like from your perspective.
Well, the NSBA World Show is to me the best way that I can describe it to people is it is the Quarter Horse Congress in 10 days. Because you have just about as many arenas going, just about as many classes going. It is just kind of an overwhelming show from start to finish. They have added a few days to the World Show part of the schedule now that I think it will alleviate maybe some late nights, but it is just constant go, go, go. But the show is I just find it fascinating to watch, as I said, the different breeds showing under one roof in all of those classes, all of the parts of it that have grown from, the youth used to be an all age. It used to be non-pro. Then it became amateur and youth. And then it became youth 13 and under and 14 to 18. And now it has small fry and now it has walk trot. It has so many different divisions to it that just kind of show you the progression of how it's all grown. And even the age groups of some of the maturity classes with, 3-year-olds, 4 and 5-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds, depending, it's just progressed so much to see the all breed futurity classes grow as they have. And just, it's just to me a tremendous thing to watch happen when we're trying to get ready for that show. It's interesting. I don't have to do stalls, but my coworker Nicole Barnes does, and she was just talking to me the other day about trying to fit everybody in where they want to be in all of the spots that they have available on the grounds at Tulsa, which we never ever thought we would shoehorning people in, but we are. The showgrounds just has grown to accommodate us, and I think we still look for stalls, even with all the additions they've done to that showgrounds. So it's just fun to watch it happen and to see everybody's excitement to be there and to watch all the quality of the horses too, which is just amazing in every discipline, no matter what you see, and just to know that it's the best of all the breeds in the stock horse part of the industry competing together to crown some champions, and it's just always fun to watch happen and fun to see how it all plays out.
So take us through like one of your days at the NSBA World Show so people can kind of appreciate what it takes to be Connie Lechleitner during the NSBA World Show. What does your normal day look like?
My normal day at the World Show, usually I try to get over to the grounds by about 7. They do offer, the staff does have an area where we do have food. So I'll have some breakfast. And then I'm normally stationed at the back of the Ford Arena for all of the winter results at that arena. If I know that there are a couple of other big classes that I can try to catch, I may run up to the pavilion, to the trail pavilion, or over to the Mustang, or down to the Ford Truck Arena. It just depends what's happening on different days. But most of the time, I'm at the back of the Ford Arena in interviews and trying to catch photos of people as they come out of the arena. So that kind of goes on all day. Lunch is, they're on the ground, so we don't leave. And then late afternoon into the evening, however long the show goes, I'm there till the last class is going in the Ford. And then I'll go back to my hotel room at night and relive the day. And I'll put a story together with all the interviews that I've done throughout the day to try to put something up that is reflective of what happened that day. And in addition to what I'm doing, we have people doing photos in the other arenas at the same time. And we're also trying to post to Facebook shortly after each class to put up win photos of the top 3 people in the classes. So that's also part of the job is doing. I'm slower than most of my other competitors in the industry just because I'm doing an interview and then I post to Facebook. So they tend to scoop me on the Facebook post, but I tend to scoop them on the story of what the winner had to say that day. So we all have our places in there, but mine involves both the article part and the upload of the post. So just trying to do a well-rounded job on Facebook and get something up on our website at the end of the day for each day that happens throughout the show. And then at the end of the show, I try to do a recap when the final part of the show is done to be able to provide that. In addition to the actual show classes, I'm trying to keep track of our sale graduates too, because we try to highlight them when they win extra money too, because they're in the sale class that they choose to win some of the money that's put in a purse from being run through the yearling sale, either as a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. So I usually get a heads up of where those people are in the show. So I try to keep track of who they are and if they place in the top 10, and then try to catch them specifically as well. So it's a lot to keep track of, and especially if you're doing 2 or 3 parts of a class in one class, can get a little hectic. But seems like I've been doing that a long time now between the Congress and working for NSBA. So it kind of got a system put together, but not always, but I try to do that. So it's a busy day. It's just a busy day.
Is there like one certain class that you just can't miss when you're at the World Show?
Well, they're all pretty special. The last couple of years, last year when they started doing a invitation only horsemanship class. And so that was multi-breed, and it was kind of based on their national standings. And so that's really been fun to watch. I watched the inaugural one last year, and that'll be something I won't miss again this year. And that is sponsored, I believe, by Cinch. So they have a little cocktail party to invite everybody to come and watch and cheer on their favorites. And they kind of do a head-to-head competition with a pattern they haven't seen before, which is kind of neat to see. So that one is probably one of my favorites right now because it's something new and different that we've done.
That sounds awesome.
I am continually amazed by the level of competition that exists within the non-pro pattern class exhibitors is just always increasing and always awe-inspiring. And especially, at that level or at the NSBA, you're going to have the best of all the breeds there to do it. So I imagine that's a really, really cool event to watch.
It really is.
Will that be live streamed at all?
I believe it will be.
One of the final questions we have for you is, what would you still like to accomplish as your time as editor of The Way to Go? Or what would you still like to see happen? Kind of where are your goals at from where you're at currently?
Well, it is maybe something people might not expect. We have a group that is called American Horse Publications, and it is basically all of the different magazine horse editors. And we have a commercial part to that, and we have freelancers and such, but they have an annual contest each year. And I would love to be able to win a writing award through American Horse Publications for The Way to Go. I haven't accomplished that yet, but I'm hoping to to do that yet in my career. That would be something that would be fun to accomplish.
And if somebody was interested in advertising in the magazine, how would they go about doing that?
They can do a couple of things. They can call the office and talk to Nicole Barnes. We also have our ad rates all and the specs all on our website at nsba.com. And you just kind of go over to the right-hand side. There's a tab called Magazine, and they just do the drop down for that. And the ad rate card is there, and all those specifications for putting their ad together are there for them. So that would be Nicole.
Perfect. And kind of last question before we let you give all your details on where everybody can find your information and the NSBA magazine information. Do you have a favorite quote?
Well, I have to look this up because I just found this the other day. Well, one of them is scars heal, glory fades, all you're left with are the memories made. Life is short, so you might as well live it. That's one of them.
There you go.
This one is actually the Cowboy's Prayer, said by the late Clem McSpadden, who was a rodeo announcer. Help us, Lord, to live our lives in such a manner that when we make that last inevitable ride in the country up there, where the grass grows lush, green, and stirrup high, the water runs cool, deep, and clear, that you, as our last judge, will tell us that our entry fees are paid. Another one is, if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. And probably my absolute favorite quote is, I love deadlines. I love the whooshing noise they make as they go by. That's by author Douglas Adams. So those are a couple of mine.
Very fitting for you, of course. Can you tell us where everybody can find you or information about the magazine, The Way to Go, social media, what's your contact info there? And we will also include it in all the links in the show notes.
Yeah, we are basically at NSBA, or the National Snafflebit Association, on Facebook. We also have an Instagram. I believe it's Show NSBA. NSBA.com is the association's website, and the magazine, you can view all of our issues by going to the right-hand side of the front page to the drop-down that says magazine, and you can choose a year and issue and be able to find us that way.
I think I can speak for everybody when I say we all hope we have the opportunity to be interviewed by you as we exit the arena gate. So
yes,
everybody has a goal of talking to Connie. Awesome. Well, that's everything I have. If Liz doesn't have any other questions.
Yeah, I'm good. It was very nice to get to chat with you. It's definitely super intriguing to me because I love writing myself. And yeah, as Jenna said, we all hope to meet you at the end of Arena one day to do an interview.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that'll be your class. Bring them in and line them up.